oh, does, maybe your mom have like a food truck or want to do like a food truck and like sell her food, and like those kind of microaggressions where I would just be, I like, I got to the point where I would ignore him. It was those tiny little things that after a while it pissed me off. I was like, you're just kind of judging and think it's a joke.
Right.
Like, yeah, my mom cooks bomb to, doesn't mean you're gonna say, oh, does she have a food truck? Does she have a restaurant? Is she, cooking for the family? Like, what are you having for dinner? Like all this kind of crap.
Right. Why are you assuming that mom wants to have a food truck? Like,
because if your mom was white and threw down in the kitchen, he wouldn't ask if she had a food truck. If he asked about her food, he would say, does she have a restaurant or a cafe? It wouldn't even be a food truck too, on top of that.
exactly.
So my mom would tell the kids, like, always get with a partner who you think is going to advance your children in their looks, make your children more beautiful so that they don't have to have a hard life. So I translate that as, okay, well, you're dark, so you get with somebody who is light so that you can lighten your children so you feel like they will not have as hard of a life as you have. So it's crazy. It's like,
Yeah, I was about to say, let's rewind and go back into the workplace, because workplace experiences, and then also, do you guys code switch at work? Like, do you change the way that you talk, to be more palatable to people at work? Crystal, you go ahead and start, and then you guys, whoever else wants to chime in on code switching, please do so.
Well, my work one, it hasn't, I mean, I've worked in offices and I've worked at whatever, and I naturally talk, like when I moved to New York, they called me white girl, so I know that I don't have to change how I talk, but my natural tone of my voice is what you hear right now. I don't change when I answer the phone and I'm in an office, whatever. What is funny to me in the workplace though, is I used to be a stripper, and it's not a secret, I don't care. And when I was, of some of the girls, so one of my close friends in the club, she was black, dark-skinned black girl. She would tell me, like, if you want to make more money, don't wear your hoop earrings. You need to wear stud earrings. Don't wear, like, try to wear more like lace. Basically, adjust myself to what would be more like white friendly, or what these older white men would be looking for, things like that. And what's crazy is I could understand in maybe a different environment that, like, you need to adjust certain things. I know it's a huge issue with like Black people having their natural hair out in a quote unquote professional workplace. Like, if your natural hair is unprofessional, I'm not even going to go down that fucking rabbit hole. But yeah, I'm just like, I'm out here shaking ass and I still gotta fucking accommodate to these white people. Like, are you kidding me? In the club though, that was the last place, girl. When I tell you, I found hoops that were touching my neck, I couldn't even hold my own neck straight. They were so big. I was like, that's the shit I'm wearing. I'll be damned if I come up in here putting some studs on and shit to accommodate to these people. And what was even crazy too is, it's almost sad, anytime an older white man would tell me I was beautiful, give me a tip, ask me for a lap dance, get a VIP room, my hair would do a damn dance. I would be astonished to find that a white person, especially if they were older, was even slightly physically attracted to me. I'm like, what? Like, you like me? And not only that, but I'm not wearing these fucking stupid ass stud earrings that people are telling me to wear, and this lace shit that I'm not wearing. Like, I would wear that. It's like bikini style, very vibrant colors, like metallic type of material, sparkles and shit. I did not change none of that shit for anybody. I was like, I'm wearing what the fuck I'm wearing, and this is how I like it. So no matter where you think you can escape it, even if you're butt ass naked for a dollar, you're going to deal with the racism in the workplace. So that was the most, I might expect that in a more professional setting, in an office, whatever, I don't give a fuck. But at the strip club, to know that it's in the strip club, I'm like, damn, that shit's crazy.
I mean, I think that happens everywhere. Like, I love to wear big earrings. I love earrings. I don't even care if I work in an office environment and I'm suited up. But honestly, somebody called me out. Like, I don't know if I shared this with Sierra, but somebody called me out because I had like these big earrings in a meeting not too long ago. So somebody was, this is like a conference room, 16 people, very formal meeting. And what they had to say when the first part of the meeting was like recognitions, and what they have to say about me was like, well, I want to recognize Jazmin because of those earrings that she's wearing. And I swear that after that, I was like, you know what? I might stop wearing big earrings to work because I have brains that I want to be recognized for, not my big earrings. And I think I stopped for like 2 weeks, but then I felt like I was losing myself because I like my big earrings. I mean, I usually also don't have my hair like this because I guess I don't give myself enough time to have it straight or whatever. So like most of the time my hair is up. So I feel like earrings enhance that like femininity in me. And so I love to wear big earrings, but I have experience, especially like office environment, where people are always commenting on like my earrings, and it's not always because they're nice. It's more like trying to say that I have big earrings and maybe they're not appropriate or something. And it's pretty annoying, but then I'm like, you know what? You're gonna get it.
So the code switching thing, it's funny because my own sister, she's older than me, right? So she's always like, why are you talk like a white girl? Why you talk like that? And I talk, I don't know, really notice like talking more professionally to more, cussing and whatever, slang or whatnot. And I'm like, shut up, what are you talking about? Da, da, da. I was like, yeah, why are you talking like that? And then at work, because I work with a lot of patients, how's your day? Da, 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 da. I kind of battle with it where I'm trying to be polite and, kind of block just talking in a way where it's not like, I'm not inappropriate, but in a way where they find it acceptable, I guess. But then I'm over here with my Latin or Hispanic patients that speak Spanish, they prefer it. And I talk to them just like I would talk to my mom, to, like normal. So I think back and forth, and I've been doing this field for almost 10 years now. And I still go back and forth when like I meet a doctor or, a new staff that I'm interviewing with or working with now. And then after a while, I kind of like let it go a little bit where I need to just talk how I want to and still be polite in that aspect. But I feel like it's still a constant battle with that because I'm talking to my, Hispanics and Latinos, I always talk at home and it's still polite. But the English side of it, it's just a battle. It's like I still need to figure out how I need to speak in the tone that's for me. That's me in a way. But my sister's real good to call me out on it and be like, why are you talking like that? When she's more like laid back, let loose, like she's kind of out there with her emotions on her sleeve. So I take it from her, and I feel like that's something that I need to work on and figure out if it's for me or not, really.
Yeah. In corporate America, I definitely have to code switch or I'm going to be viewed as a threat. It's just apparent. And then going off of what Jazmin was saying about her earrings, I haven't had comments on my earrings, but I've had comments on like my hair. I remember I had some box braids in my hair. You know how I always braid my hair in the individual ones when I don't feel like doing it anymore. And one of the people on my team, she had cut her hair more recently and she had cut a lot of it off. And so I was like, oh, your hair is really cute, looks nice. And then she was like, oh yeah, your hair is different too, like really different. But it wasn't like your hair looks nice. It was like, and people started coming in for the meeting. And so like, I didn't really have to address what she had just said, but she was a part of my hiring process. And I was thinking like, if my hair wasn't like this, pulled back in a bun when I did my interview and it was in those braids, would I have even got that position? Like, I don't know, because the way that she responded to me getting my hair braided was like, she was not for that shit. Like, yeah. Move forward. So we've talked about a lot building up to this. And so now I'm just curious, do you guys have race conversations with your children? And when you were younger, did your parents have race conversations with you guys to kind of prepare you or to keep you safe? in certain situations?
I can comment on that. I have my baby. He's still young, and I just like haven't brought the conversation because he doesn't talk. But at some point, I have to do it because I'm the first person that have immigrated to the United States from my family, and I never have like some kind, like I mentioned in my previous comments, that I never experienced racism because I was raised with people that just look like me. Everybody just look exactly the same like me, and so. But Logan being born here in the U.S. and having two parents that are immigrated from Latin America, so that's the conversation that I will have to have with him as soon as he's able to talk and understand. But it's something that's always on the back of my head, so my son will understand that he's not different because he's a brown kid.
Well, I have a 19-year-old. She'll be 20 in August, and we talk about race all the time, obviously, because she is on all the platforms. She sees all of the killings of brown and black bodies, and it's something that we have to talk about. Just recently, she started skateboarding, and we have a skate park that's not too far from our house, and she and her friend were going there in the mornings. Her friend was from Australia, and she was kind of stuck here because of COVID and everything. But she has since gone and made it back home. But I noticed that once the friend was now not able to go with my daughter to the skate park, I started to get really panicked. And I would tell her, you know, make sure you send me your location. And, you know, because my daughter she's obviously, you know, a brown child. I mean, you put a hoodie on her, she could look like a brown boy. She's very straight bodied. She wears loose clothes. And so we talk about it all the time. It's a continual thing. And I think there is no option for us because I need her to be prepared. She drives. So I'm always constantly telling her, drive under the radar. Don't drive too fast. Don't drive too slow. Don't, you know, rolling stop, do everything that you can to never get stopped. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate, and it makes me sad that I have to prepare her for this. But I also think that you know, we just don't have a choice. We have to have those conversations. And a lot of the time she will bring them up because she's on it, you know, she's on it with her phone, and she'll say, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And we just kind of console each other, you know, and that, I think, again, going back to my family, that is what kind of makes it hard is, you know, they don't quite understand exactly how this impacts us and the fear that it drums up. So
I would say growing up, speaking about race, I mean, my parents, it wasn't like a major thing, like, oh, you know, you got to be diligent and all this stuff. It was more of overall all people. Like, I wasn't allowed to stay the night at, you know, friend's house. I was always like in the house by a certain hour. My brother too, like growing up, your ass was inside, or she would come get you, you know. But I do remember, like, my dad, very smart. He was always on History Channel. Like, I would watch it together and like talk about those, like, you know, wars and all that stuff. And also, you know, he brought up the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, you know, when, you know, the US and Mexico went to war and how that all happened. But I really didn't grasp it. I didn't think about much of it. Like, I thought, oh, my mom is just being overprotective. Like she's like, always know your surroundings. Don't walk in, you know, near the street, like all this kind of stuff. I didn't really think about it until, you know, growing up, and you kind of see different things happening to people of color. And now, because it's all social media, everything. My daughter is 11, and she's preteen, and she's grown a lot in this last year. And I feel like we've had more talks about those kinds of things coming up now, where before she never asked me, she never questioned. Like, our area is diverse, and my nieces and nephews are half Black. You know, it's normal for her, like being around different people of color. And with all this stuff going on, she, you know, she kind of sees and hears me and Gabe kind of talk, and we openly talk about it. Like, if she has questions, and we answer it. But she has noticed the worry where, like in me probably more, because, you know, my nieces and my nephew, they're a little bit darker complexion than my kids. And I speak to my mom and I try to tell my sister that, you know, they got to talk and have these conversations with them too, because we never really talked about it before. And like my nephew's outside running around. I'm like, you got to talk to him about being in the street, being around here. And Genevieve, I mean, my daughter, she rides a skateboard and she's all over the place. And I have to tell her, like, no, you need to know where you're going. You need to stay where we can see you. And like those kinds of things, they're not really like grasping at why. So I think as they grow, we have to talk to them consistently about it, because there's always going to be some new thing, like going to the store, going to a restaurant, movie theaters, things like that. Your friends, you never know. And that's what my mom always kind of set up, is like, you have to be careful. It doesn't matter where you're at, who you're with. They can be your friends or your family too. I mean, it just, you never know. And just putting that caution up and educating them about their history, like where they came from, because they don't know, and they sometimes don't know how to ask those questions either.
And it's like with your daughter, not only is she a woman, that's a target, she's a child, that's a target, and then she's of color, that's a target. Because God forbid an attacker, you know, they might not target somebody who is white or somebody who looks like them. They might just go and, because they relate to that too much, they just might be desensitized to people of color. So just because you look the way you look, now it's just more dangerous for you, just even living, playing, having fun, which is sad for children to have to deal with, but it's a reality until it's not. So
very true.
I hear silence. I guess that means move on to the next question. So with all of these things that we've talked about up to this point, how do you guys think that the treatment of Latin American people in general has manifested psychologically, mentally, physically within you guys' communities?
I would say that, and that's my experience, and most of my family is still living in Dominican Republic, so only here, my dad lives here, but the way I think it plays within my culture and the people that I see here is that everybody kind of stays in their own lane, if you will, and they are very much afraid, I feel like, to go and get more and explore more things, because more often than not, I see that Dominicans stick with Dominicans, and it's not necessarily because that's natural, but it's also because they're afraid of exploring outside of the boundaries, because being afraid of being targeted, being profiled, being told things that they don't want to deal with. And my sister and I since we came here, we wanted to just go everywhere. We didn't see race too much, but we even sometimes go to a restaurant or a supermarket, like her and I were talking about it, and she asked for like pancetta because she wanted to do a carbonara, and then the first thing that they asked her is like, oh, the Italian pork. I'm like, if she asks you for that, she probably knows what she's asking for. And I think I went to a restaurant the other day and I also ordered something. I know what I'm ordering. I literally know what I'm ordering, but I think the waiter felt the necessity to describe to me, define what I was ordering. And it's just these kinds of things these kinds of experiences that I feel like in my culture, people tend to just be friends with Dominicans sometimes and only hang out with ourselves. And it's not because of anything else, but being afraid to be exposed to this kind of treatment. They don't say they're afraid, but they also don't they kind of stay in their own lane, if you will.
I think for me, and just, you know, when I think of community, I don't think of just, you know, just my family, but in general, the people in my life are not as concerned as I would like them to be about, again, bringing it back to the people that are in the detention camps and being apprehended by ICE. They're not as, it's almost like a separation, like it's like we're not the same people, you know. And because maybe, you know, my family, we definitely are Mexican. I mean, there's several, the younger generations don't speak Spanish as much as the older generations do. But it's like we've made it, you know, and so we're middle class, and we, you know, they're just not as concerned as I would think they should be, knowing that, like you said, Tiara, this used to be Mexico. Come on, you know, these are our people, you know. When America was founded, those people were braving the storm to make a better life. These people are doing the same, and they are doing it legally. You go to a port of entry, you claim asylum, you get your case heard. You know, you should not be separated from your children. You should not be put in a detention camp. So I'm sort of a little bit deflated that it's not in my community. It's not more important and more in the forefront of everybody's mind that we need to do something.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's not a rush to like support and help one another in a way where it's more within the family. I like with the news and everything, I feel like I'll say something to my mom about like the protests, and we went to one, and she's like, oh, but what is that going to do? You know, and not meaning it in a bad way, but she's like, it's just so much is against all the problems. Their hope is kind of not there, really. Like they did their struggle. They came here, they tried to make a life. I mean, they were able to get papers, and then a lot of people go back. Like my parents went back to Mexico after they were here and we were born. And they ended up coming back, and, you know, they say, you know, some things are better over there than they are here. And then with all the negativity too, it's like, I think it just builds up and it suppresses what they really want to do and feel for. So, I mean, I try to talk to my mom, like, you know, the ICE camps and things that are going on like that. Like, can you imagine what these people are going through? And there's still a tough conversation for them. I feel like the struggle and hardships that they kind of want to leave them in the past in a way. And even though they should be so proud, like my parents are US citizens now. They went through the whole process and did all that. And we were proud of them. Like, but to them, wasn't just like this glorified thing. To them, it was just like, I got this done, and then let's move on in a way. So yeah, that's a tough one, Tiara.
I guess what I feel like I'm hearing is that people are kind of minimizing themselves just so they can continue to survive, or like you said, move on.
Yeah. In a way, yeah.
Adriana, were you going to say something?
I was just going to add to what she was saying. My dad was kind of in the same boat. When I went to a protest, he's like, you know, I really don't want you getting caught up in all that stuff. You know, it doesn't apply to us. And I'm like, I don't get where this, like you guys said, the disconnect, you know, it does, you know, these are people, these are lives that, you know, that it doesn't matter what the color of their skin, you know, and, you know, maybe the protest isn't, you know, specifically for like Mexicans, but, you know, they still have our people in cages, you know, like there's, you know, I just don't know how to express to somebody that could have been you, you know, like how could you not put yourself in those shoes, you know? And yeah, I guess I was just agreeing with the disconnect, you know, and I was trying to explain to him, you know, he understood it more, but it's just like he didn't want to further the conversation. He was just wanting to shut it down. He's like, fine, you know, but I'm not going to get caught up in it, you know? So that kind of stuff.
I think overall, everything that you guys are saying to me just sounds like they're trying to keep their safety. That's what it sounds like to me, like in certain senses of like Jazmin saying, well, you know, we kind of stay with our family. And I guess I also see that with Mayra's family, because me and Mayra have known each other since we were 14. So it's like everybody kind of sticks together. And like she said, her friends were her cousins because everyone hangs out together. So almost like this is safe. I also don't want to have to keep explaining stuff to other people. So I'm going to stay with the people that I already know, understand what's going on.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing.
another extension of like that whole kind of safety thing is, so my mom, the best way I can describe, like, I guess her skin color for people who haven't seen her, because Tara, you've seen my mom. Mayra, I don't know if you have. She looks like Oprah. Like, she's like the color of Oprah. Even her face kind of looks like Oprah. Like, and then my dad is like, he's not white, but he's not, like, he can tan without burning. So my mom would tell the kids, like, you know, always get with a partner who you think is going to advance your children in their looks, make your children more beautiful so that they don't have to have a hard life. So I translate that as, okay, well, you're dark, so you get with somebody who is light so that you can lighten your children, so you feel like they will not have as hard of a life as you have. So it's crazy. It's like, that's the embedded root. It's like a level of safety. Like, okay, well, my kids, my mom will sometimes say, like, used to say, like, oh, the only thing is that, you know, this one of the sisters came out with her hair like this. Like, if it's a bad thing, because her hair grows towards the sun. All of ours grows towards the ground. And now that we're older and she can do her own hair and knows how to maintain it, it's so banging. And it's not better than our hair, because all hair is good hair. But it's so beautiful. And I'm like, it's crazy. We were raised as this was like the one thing, like, oh man, well, you got nappy hair, you got curly hair, like whatever. It's like a little sponge. And now I love the direction that everything is going in, because we can appreciate these things. I can undo the programming that's been done. I don't have to get with somebody who is white in order to feel that my children will have a better life. If I get with somebody who's white, it's because I love them. It's not like a underlying, like, not necessarily agenda, but that's going to be the sole purpose, you know? So I feel like, even though, yeah, my mom and my dad are both from the Dominican Republic, we're the first generation born here. That to me is crazy. And then I'll have to tell people, like, they're legal, like, they got there. My mom would always have to say that, like, I have my papers. When people try to tell her stuff, I remember her saying that, like, I have a degree. Both my parents have degrees. Both my parents were legal. My dad served in the U.S. military. And it's like, once you say these things to people, especially white people, then they're like, the guard comes down, like, oh, okay, so they are educated then, or they are allowed to be here then. Like, bitch, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, oh my God, like, I can identify so much, because I feel like being a colored person, you almost have to read your resume just so people can, like, accept you or see you better. Like, I remember that when I moved to Seattle, I avoid it now. I don't say where I work, because I'm like, what if I was, I don't know, brewing coffee? What if I was a barista? Do you really need me to tell you what I work for? You are you gonna treat me differently? And, like, why does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, unless this is a job interview, what I do actually doesn't really matter, because we're just people interacting. I also, like, my mom is like the lighter skin and my dad is very dark. And I always saw, like, in my family, like in DR, people would make remarks about my dad being like the darker skin one. And it's always like these little conversations of, like, have to make the race a little better. So that programming of, like, no, I should just be with whoever I want to be, regardless of what they look like. And that goes both for, like, black or white. Like, I just want to be able to be with someone because we got along, and not because there is, like, an underlying agenda that I want the next generation to look better. And I think for myself, that's the type of programming that I'm always trying to be cognizant of, because it was there, it is probably there, and it was very real, and it's something that you still hear in our circles of, like, hey, or like this, like, my sister is darker than I, like, instead of calling her by her name, she was like prieta, which in Spanish just means like dark. I don't know how to translate it, but she was not, like, a lot of people still don't call her name. Is La Prieta, and it's just like, what? It's just weird.
But dark, not in a good way. Like, it's not like saying somebody how in America will say, like, oh, she has dark skin, and that's not an offensive way to say prieta. It can be offensive, so it's not something that people, unless you know the person and you guys talk like that, whatever, but that's not something you go around calling people.
Right. And so the agenda that you guys were talking about, that agenda, I'm going to just lay it out. That agenda is called anti-Blackness. Your hair grows so your hair grows toward the sun. One of your sisters has hair that's more Afro-like, so that is bad thing because that's Black. Only Black people have Afro-like hair. Or your skin is darker, so you're the prieta, but that means a bad thing because that is Black. You look like a Black person. So all this stuff is anti-Blackness. Or mejorar la raza, better the race by getting with a white person. That is anti-Blackness. Your nose is wide. You need to have a more thin, like pointy-ish kind of nose. That is anti-Blackness. Because not only, but there's certain features that come from African people that everybody wants to downplay. So this agenda of bettering your race by getting with someone who looks more Caucasian or European is anti-Blackness.
And I wonder if that plays into the whole thing where a lot of Hispanic Latinos, even within my family, I've seen it, they're racist against Black people. And I didn't understand it. My niece and nephew are, they're German, Hispanic, Black. And I still remember, like, from the day my mom and my dad met, my brother-in-law, it wasn't pretty. And it was kind of like a shocker for me. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, he's just a guy. My sister, she was 18, she was already almost done with school. Like, why can't she just be with him? Or like, why is that a problem? She had a lot of Black friends, a lot of, that was who her clique was. She changed schools because there was majority white people. She got a lot of racist things happen to her. And I mean, this is her man. And he comes and introduces himself politely. And it's not a funny story, but the way my mom reacted to it, where she's just like standing there, like, and it was a whole problem. And this is, 20 years now. And, embrace him, love our nieces, my niece and nephew. But the change I saw with my parents, it was like overnight, but I don't know if it was the stigma in their head that they've been told that no, the morenitos, no, or, something like that. I didn't understand it. And even with some of my uncles, they would say these things and I'm like, that's not right. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're in our family now. And I've seen it, like, a lot of it die down and go away, where it's they're more open to it and connected and not so racist about it, because this is pretty damn dark to say and do those kinds of things when us as kids are all around. They would do it. They didn't care. But I have seen the change. But I wonder if that goes into, purifying la raza or how they were raised. I'm not sure, honestly.
I see it all the time. Like, I was raised with it. Mind you, in my family, especially on my mom's side, my color is light compared to a lot of them. Like, my grandpa, her dad, my mother's father looks like a coffee bean. Like, they are not light in that family, really, like, at all. My mom's mom is kind of like my color. And then my dad's side, they have a lot of French and Italian in that blood. So they have more like red hair and they're like whiter skin and stuff. But on my mom's side, no, they're dark. So what's crazy to me is that as dark people, they are separating themselves from Black people, because it goes back to that whole nobody wants to be Black, like you're saying, Tara, it's a bad thing, whatever. And I see it in the world. And then what's harder is, in the grand scheme of everything going on, as a Hispanic, as a brown person, sometimes, I don't want to say it, I feel in the middle, because that would mean that I'm as equal from Black people as I am from white people, and I will never take the side of white people, to put it bluntly, and I don't give a fuck. But I feel put in the middle in a way that somebody would say, who is Black, they'll be like, you know what? You think you're better than me because you're light skinned? Bitch, you're just like me. You are Black like me. Look at your ancestors. Where do you think you're from? All this stuff. And then if I say nigga or whatever, you're not Black enough to say that. You're not this. You don't know what we've been through. Your family wasn't slaves here. So it's like, who the fuck do you want me to be? Where am I supposed to squeeze in here? Like, if either I'm your people or I'm not. So there's so much contradiction from Black culture toward that I've felt personally. as a Hispanic person. And then I even get it from white people, like, oh, you're not black, you know, so it's okay. Like, yeah, you're just dark enough. Like, bitch, fuck that. Like, what do you, I know what the fuck you're trying to say to me. Like, so it is, as a brown person, for me, that shit, it's not confusing because I get it. I know who I am and I know where I'm going. But there is a disconnect in the people. And I know the culture is different. We cook different things for Thanksgiving. We have different things at the barbecue. We are different. The music is different, but the people are the same. Like, I used to always say, Dominicans are Black people who speak Spanish. Like, to me, that's how I connect to Black people, but not all Black people connect to Dominicans in that way.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I feel like since that, you know, it's this race to the bottom. Nobody wants to be on the bottom. And that's why Black and brown people are always minimizing each other. I know when my mom got pregnant and she told my grandma, my Mexican grandma, that, you know, that I was going to be part Black, my grandma was not having it. And my mom was sent out of the home. You know, and then later on, of course, she loved me, but just because you have, you know, biracial people in your family, it doesn't mean that you're now down for that ethnicity anymore, that race. You know, it's unfortunate, but, you know, the standard is, you know, unfortunately, I mean, I think it's changing slowly. I think it's changing, but, you know, we've been ingrained that white is the standard of beauty, and now it's changing. And I don't think white people didn't know what to do besides, you know, implement different things. And I think brown people, all of us need to embrace it and just, you know, love all of our characteristics, love every hair texture, you know, and just be the best that we can in this construct. But I think it's always been like, nobody wants to be on the bottom. So that's all I was going to say.
I totally agree. So you guys don't know, but Synthia is my husband's cousin. And when Marcos and I got married, his grandma, so we made a book for them as a memento of the wedding. And she was like, yeah, mijo, I was showing people you guys' wedding pictures. I had so much fun, telling them everything about it. And then when they looked at the picture, they said, he married a Black person? I've also heard him have side conversations, like he's on the phone and he's talking to someone who's a family member and they don't know I'm around, so they don't know that I hear, and I hear them talking about a nigger on the phone. You know, so it's like, I'm married to a person who has a racist family. And despite the fact that I'm doing better than every single person I know in his family, and this is not like a jab at them, like immediate family, this is not a jab at them at all. I'm doing better than all of you guys. But you have the nerve to call somebody a nigger when you are in the worst position. Like, that's crazy. We're doing pretty good for ourselves. But the only thing you care about is that I'm Black. Oh my God, he married a Black person? Nothing else. Didn't want to know anything else about me.
That's the deprogramming that so many Hispanics need to do, because it goes on within us. And unfortunately for my dad, I don't know, he died, so I don't know his perspective on color as like the whiter skinned person who was the Dominican. You know, I have my sisters, but that doesn't count because our generation is so mentally strong and we care so much. Like, if anybody is gonna get shit done and make changes, it's our generation and underneath us, and that is exactly what has been happening. So it's like, I wish I could have gotten that perspective, you know. And just to clarify, when I say I will never take the white person's side, I mean, I'm not saying I'll never marry a white person or befriend them. I have plenty of white friends. I'm just saying I would never agree with the overall perspective of things going on, if that makes sense. If there was any confusion about that, I don't know.
Okay, you guys, so last question. For all those people out there who make comments of race being non-existent in 2020, and everyone's past that, and it just doesn't exist, and everything is not about race, are you sure that was a race thing that just happened? What do you guys have to say to those people?
To stop talking. just stop talking. Seriously. Like you don't get it, then educate yourself and shut up. Like that's all I gotta say. Like just you don't have a right to say anything about it if you don't know anything about it. So that's all I gotta say.
I would say that, you know, someone who says that has the luxury of thinking that race doesn't matter. They don't have to think about the things that we think about, my daughter going to the skate park or not getting stopped by a policeman, or they just have the luxury of their skin not being an issue for them. Or and I would have to say, if you want to be, this country is going forward and things are changing, and it is because of your generation, I am convinced. And I'm excited about it. But I think that people are going with that idea, they're just going to be left behind and in the dark, because people are moving forward. They're realizing that race does matter in America and we have to change it. So
I hate when people say they don't see color and that shit doesn't exist. First of all, bitch, shut the fuck up. Second of all, yes, you fucking do. Because don't tell me that the makeup industry isn't flourishing with funds based on color and complexion. You don't go to get one fucking foundation. You match your color. So you see that shit. You know it fucking exists. So I don't even have a lot to say on that. When people say that shit, I think they are deliberately being racist. I wanted to say a word that's a little bit lighter than racist, but no, it's just racist. I think they're deliberately being racist, and they're using color to blanket the problems. You see the problem. So when you're saying there's no color, you're trying to say there's no problem with how people of color are being treated. So if anybody thinks that, all I gotta say is fuck you.
Ditto on that. Honestly, I think it's a joke when people say their reasoning why they think it's like why things are happening or whatnot, even coming from people that we knew in school. Don't tell me, oh, you miss my mom's cooking, oh, you love this and that, all the parties, this and that, and then post all that shit when you don't even have one clue to what their life was like. You haven't had one struggle. I mean, the bravery to do what my family has done. Yes, there's a lot of things that go into it, but just being inhumane about it, not considering their side of the story, what they've been through, not listening, not caring to listen, not educating yourself, and then having the mouth to just blah, blah, you know, just all this stuff, constant, and you don't know anything. You're not aware, you're not willing to relate to anybody. You just focus about what you want to say and whatnot and make it that it's something else. And you know what, like Synthia said, it is going to be changing by what was it, 2060? I saw statistics. There's going to be over 110 million Hispanic Latinos alone in the US. Right now we're what, 60 million? And you think that number's going to go down? No. And with all the other races and immigrants coming, it's going to explode. So sit down for the ride, get used to it. I mean, if anyone ever wants to come and talk to myself or my family about their life and maybe you can get some insight on it, then go for it. But all the other shit you're saying is bullshit, honestly. Open your eyes and your mind to it.
What I would say is that you don't know what you don't know, and everybody has their own experience. So the fact that you have not experienced racism or something because of how you look doesn't give you the right to say it doesn't exist. You can only learn and listen. I would say listen, because I know a lot of people that say like, oh, everything is so nice. Yes, and I agree. That's your experience. That is your experience, undeniable. But know that for the simple fact of how I look, I may have an entire different experience, because I have seen how some people, everybody's nice to them. They're like the most beautiful people too. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder how your perspective to the world is so bubbly, because everybody's probably bubbly with you. Some people looked at me and they have 1,000 assumptions, and now that's my experience, even with the same people. So I would say, listen to people, listen to what they have to say, listen to their experience, and don't invalidate people's experience. If somebody's saying, I experienced racism, they are saying it because of their experience. And nobody should invalidate somebody else's experience just because they didn't went through it. So I would say, listen, don't invalidate experiences, and try to empathize, even if you never experienced race.
I agree. My answer to is it about race or is it non-existent is I just feel like those statements are, I don't know, almost strategic from a white perspective. If I can deny that race exists, I don't have to go back and atone for the things that ancestors have done, because some white people take the point of view of, well, I didn't do it, I just was able to benefit from the things that have happened. However, when you ask questions like, is that really a race thing, or I don't think that's race, or race doesn't exist, I don't see color, this is a colorblind society, that's allowing you to continue to uphold the systems that your ancestors put in place to keep other people oppressed. And so I just feel like the person who is saying that is strategically doing a chess move of like making sure things stay the way that they are, upholding the system of racism.
I would say that they using that as an excuse that, oh, I don't see color. Yes, you do see color. Yes, you do know about your white privilege or whatever, right? So the first thing I said, like, just educate yourself. I experienced to be married to a white guy, and I experienced myself like being a Latina married to a white guy. I was experiencing racism because in the South, when they see a mixed couple, it's always like something. You always get the dirty look. You don't always get the same treatment. Just even going to a restaurant, the waiters used to acknowledge my white ex-husband, but not me. So like I was non-existent. So there is a problem right there. You do see color because I am different, then you don't gonna offer me the same kind of service. So I would tell people that are there and listening to educate themselves, educate not only about the Black history, educate about like Latin American history. Like know before saying something, just educate yourself. Like know that we can speak Spanish, but we all different. We all come from different regions that have different kind of like cultural backgrounds. Try to find, if you have a friend that happens to be a Latino, like just go ask them question. Hey, how did you grow up? Like, did you experience racism in your country? Like, what would you say if I call you for a certain race that are not yours? So like, how would you feel? Like, try to don't sound stupid when you are thinking like, oh, what does it mean to be this? What does it mean to be that? So don't make those kind of comments, because at the end, the one that's looking bad is you, not me. So that's my recommendation. Just educate yourself, and if you don't know nothing, just be quiet. Don't say anything.
All right, ladies. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you guys for being here with me. Thank you guys for sharing your experiences and just being honest and